So my book is Shelley Goes to Summer Camp, inspired by a summer camp that I went to, and was a counselor at for a few years when I got out of high school. But the place that it was at was somewhere that I had been going for a very long time. So it's essentially about a girl who's going to a sleepaway camp for the first time, nervous and scared. She's never been away from home. Her parents are telling her that, there's nothing to worry about. You're going to be fine. You're going to make friends. She gets there and realizes that all the kids there seem to know each other already. She kind of feels a little bit left out. And then she makes a friend unexpectedly that changes her whole perspective on summer camp. They get to do everything together, create an amazing bond. And then she gets to experience summer camp for everything that it is, enjoy it, have a great time, and then look forward to the next year.
Awesome. And it's so cute. I love the illustrations and the story. So I don't know if you mentioned it a little bit, but what was your inspiration for the book?
Yeah, so the inspiration was a summer camp that I was a counselor of. It's actually a summer camp at Day Spring Conference Center in Parrish, Florida. As a kid, I went there for different weekend events from sixth grade all the way up through high school. And then once I graduated from high school, I became a counselor for summer camp. I had known a few of the people, campers, counselors, a lot of like the administrators that were involved in it already from the other retreats or experiences that I had there before, but then got to experience this summer camp experience. So instead of being there for just 2 nights over the course of a weekend, I was able to be there for the whole week. And then since I was serving as a counselor, I did that week after week for up to 6 weeks at a time. So just the experiences that I got there, the friendships that I made, kind of shaped me into who I am today. So I thought it was a great, place to inspire me.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what do you think was the most challenging part of the publishing process or the writing process?
I would say honestly, probably working with the illustrator, just because the ideas that I had in my head weren't exactly being portrayed, how I wanted them to be per se. Because it was based on a real place, I knew exactly what the place looked like, exactly where everything was, how the structure was, different things like that. And it wasn't really getting portrayed the way that I wanted it to in the illustrations. But I kind of just took a step back and realized that the book was being inspired by this place and not based on this place instead. So that kind of helped me, be a little bit more okay with the illustrator having, his perspective of things and how he was. It was kind of hard to explain, the setting of it a little bit. At first, the background and the scenes tended to be a little bit more modern, advanced and stuff like that. Whereas the summer camp, being taken place in the middle of the woods, essentially. So kind of being able to portray that to him was a little bit difficult. But then, once we started working together a little bit more and I was trying to send examples back and forth, it started to make it a little bit easier. But I would
Yeah.
say, definitely knowing how the place looked and wanting it to be, wanting my book to be like to be justified and to not do a disservice to everybody that I met at camp and to the place itself, I would say was the most struggling part.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that too, especially working with the illustrator like the first time. It's a lot of communication back and forth, and then you're like, I don't know if they're ever going to get it, but
Yeah,
eventually it turns out. So that's
yeah.
good. And hopefully the next book will be easier too.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. So what do you think is so far is the most rewarding part of the process?
I would say definitely having it in hand. Being able to like have this vision since I was younger and then kind of see it, play out from start to finish, but then being able to have like that final product, that kind of, final I did it and it's real and it's happening, is definitely self-fulfilling, just to me, being able to see that I had this idea, I followed through with it, and now it's something that I can go ahead and express, to everybody else that I see or everybody that I know or people who are just interested in reading books, I would say is definitely at least the most fulfilling for me.
Yeah, that is a really cool experience. Like when it comes and you have it
Mhm.
in your hand, it's like, oh my goodness, all this for, and
Yeah.
it's here. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. So how do you think the publishing course helped you the most in the process?
I would say the whole publishing course, in general helped because even when I was younger, I kind of had like this vision that I would eventually publish a book, but never knew what it was going to be about, never knew how to go about it. And then I had, when the pandemic started, I was finding myself thinking more and more about it, kind of just in general. And then, started to think more about it, brought it up to like my mom and was like, I think I might do this. I'm not really sure what to do. And then literally a few days later, you had posted about the publishing course. And I was like, OMG, this is, my sign from the universe. Like it's meant to happen, why not? And then just being able to have the steps laid out and, as simple as they're laid out, I thought was really helpful because, I could write, in my opinion, I can write pretty well and, come up with a storyline and everything like that. But as far as, how to get the illustrator, how to go about doing illustrations, using the publishing through, Amazon and different things like that are things that I probably wouldn't have found out very easily, or I would have struggled, in the research of doing that. So I think from start to finish, honestly, the course was extremely helpful in that.
Good. That's so glad to hear. That makes me so happy that it's easy to figure out and easy to use. So that's great. So do you have any recommendations for people who are thinking about writing and publishing a book?
I mean, I would say, in general, if you have it in your head, it's definitely attainable. I think, if I can go ahead and do it, not having literally any prior knowledge to publishing a book, I think anybody can do it, especially with the course and given, the step-by-step process and stuff like that. I would say, just be patient and, stay true to the idea. Don't give up, even when it does, get challenging or you do start to struggle a little, because in the end it will be worth it, not only for you to know that one, it's all over, but two, for you to know that, the end is here and you were able to get it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I agree. So do you have any ideas for future books?
So the summer camp book is kind of like my intro book to kind of establish the friendship that's created, within the storyline. And then my idea is to try to take the friendship and, do it for traveling. So when I was 20, I made myself a goal that I wanted to go somewhere new every year. So I kind of would like to have future books inspired by those different travels that I have that could eventually become useful for history or for geography, or even for readers to then go to those same places and kind of relate to the book and see, oh, I saw this in the book. I read that Shelley goes here and now I'm here. I think it could be a really good interactive experience for them, as well as educational for, readers who might not be in the same locations or who might aspire to be going there at some point, or who plan to be going there at some point. So I think, being able to kind of lead it into something that I have experience with, just as traveling and, different landmarks or sightseeing, things like that, that could then turn into an educational purpose for them as well.
That's awesome. And I think that's the best thing is to have, I mean, you just wrote your first book, so that's awesome and that's a big accomplishment. But then the books that come after that are kind of where you see like everything come together and more profit comes from that, and it's easier to write more books. So that's great that you have other ideas too.
Yes.
Well, thanks for doing this interview with me. It's kind of short, but I think everything was covered. So thanks so much.